Hi guys, good morning. Yesterday we worked on this OpenAPI specification. We updated our user contract, create user contract to follow the OpenAPI specification. Today we will be working on K6 tests. Okay, so we're going to have K6 load tests and see the performance of the system from the very beginning of the project. So that we'll keep the same stat. We'll try to keep the same stat whenever we add the new features as well. So this way we make sure that our system is performance enough. We are handling all the concurrency, locking that may we need to do later while introducing the feature. So this is not killing my system. And also there is a jProfiler which will help us to verify the things, or let's say debug the things, and then which particular process, CPU, database, or anything that is taking much time in my this process execution. So let's get started on this. To do this, I'll be using K6 load test as I just mentioned. So there is tool called K6. Okay, so you can check this out. This actually helps to send the request to your server and then have all the data ready for you. Okay, so basically this is a load test tool. So we can do the API testing, API load testing using this. And also we'll be using the faker library. Okay, so basically it helps to create some fake data since we need to create the loss of data out of here, and it creates a realistic fake data so that our data looks like pretty well. And also we'll be using this jProfiler to profile the things and see which components, which process is taking much time, okay, or less time, something like that. So this guy will help to debug the things, how the system is working or something like that. So let's get started on this. To do this, I'll create the folder called K6, okay, and currently we'll be running all of these K6 from our local machine, but so later we can have this as part of our pipeline as well. So whenever we add this new features, we can just run the K6 and see the stats from there. And if there is something wrong, so we have to go back to the jProfiler and see what particular thing has causing the wrong. Okay, so this is the user post.js. Okay, so I'm trying to have a load test for this user post API. All right. And then if you see the examples from the K6, there is a running K6 and this and that. So the basically starting point would be something like this. Okay, so there is a default export function which will try to run, which will hit exactly. This is the function that we need to implement so that every time K6 run the load test, it will call this function and then do the things for you. So, okay, let's get started on that. So for this, we need the HTTP, of course. So let me import this. Let me import this, or let's say copy this. All right. So I'll just go and copy this. So and then we don't need sleep now. So right, and then like there are the metrics. Okay. So if you go back into the metrics section, there are the metrics. So uh, these are the metrics that we need. Let's say the counter rate, all right. So and then the trend, these kinds of things. All right. So we'll just have that in our K6 test and to see the results. All right. So if you like to have let's say http.post, we can do from the very basics. All right. So I'll just call this http.post in the URL that in our application. Okay, something like this. So we are running the applications, and then there is, let's say, localhost http localhost, or even we can do the same. We can run and see the things from here first of all. So K6 run. Okay, and then the K6, the user post on the JS. So this way it runs the K6. All right, and then if you, it will show you the results. So this is it hit it for one time, and then this is the stat for you. All right, fine. So let's get started. Let's get started about our project. So in that case, I'm going to use a couple of matrix. All right. So to do that, let's say I'm going to use all of the matrix. All right. So the counter rate trend from the matrix, we can import that from the things, and then these are the variables that we are initializing. So basically, these are the things that is provided by the K6 as well. And as I mentioned, I'm going to use the faker, which is here. Okay, faker to get the data for us. So let's delete this. And we have the faker ready. We have the, let's say, the metrics also, and we have the HTTP as well to make to call the HTTP. So second thing would be let the URL. So what is the URL? Yes, this is the URL, right? So for our application, let's say localhost 00, we can use that environment variable as well to provide the base URLs. So APN P1 users. So this is the URL that we have. And then the we also need to have, let's say, the header, right? So what is the header that we're going to send? So to do that, I'll just have one function called the uh, max header. So this is the JSON header. So we're going to use the JSON header. Okay. And then the second thing we need to have is the body payload. Let's say the payload. So payload would be something like exactly the same that we want to. Let me just run the and then go into the users, try it out, and this is the payload that we want, right? So I will be just copying this. Now the one thing we have to make sure is let me just do one more thing here. Okay. uh, Basically what we're trying to do is we'll be sending the post request to we're using this payload, using this header in this URL. And then these are the metrics that I'm going to use. Okay, so actual HTTP request this is the duration that it took to do this post request, and then you are going to add the one more request has been sent, and then if this is 200 or 201, okay, in our case it will be always 200, so we can do the 200. All right, so yeah, the 200, then this is true, successful, otherwise false, and then I'm going to have one log error function. So basically, this is the log error. All right. So I think we're done on this. The only thing that we need to make sure is like we cannot use the same mobile number or same email every time. So let's run it for one time, and then we're going to do that case fix run. I think I have that user post. Okay. So it's yeah. So like successful request is all right. Uh, HTTPS, HTTPS, no, sorry, it's HTTP, not HTTPS. So let's do the run post again. Okay, so we're done with this. We send the one request and we have these results now. Okay, and if you want to send this back, we'll get some error because we have the yeah, the successful request is not there. All right, and the message is 400. The account number this is already exists because we have that checks in our system. So to make sure of that, we need to use the random numbers. Okay, because the actual request will have different kinds of mobile number and different email. So we are trying to do the load test, so we have to randomize the data. So, okay, to do that, I was using the faker. You can check out all of these fakers, let's say the functions that it has provided, and then use whatever functions you like to use. So basically, I'm going to use one faker thing, which is the, let's say, the faker, the name, okay, to replace with the name. So this guy will generate random name for us. So faker dot name dot find name. And then for the mobile number and the email, I think for the email, let's declare one variable called email because this is the random thing, and also the email is faker dot internet dot email. Okay, so These all are the functions that has provided by the faker. So this guy will help us to create a different realistic emails. And then the mobile number, yes, okay. To have the mobile number is we need to have a function which will generate the uh, random numbers for us. So and to this I have one function. I'm going to use it. So you can use any other functions that you can generate the random number. Okay. So I'll just do the random number for this. Okay, and then replace with this a mobile number. So basically this guy is generating the mobile number or let's say random number of this length. So it will be a random. And then since it will send a lots of requests, so we want to maybe try for 30 seconds, 20 seconds, okay, even for 1 minute. So you need to have different kinds of data. So the fake out the internet email is not sufficient, okay, because email is also our constant. So I'm just going to add this random number to yet, all right, so that it looks like the it will be a more random, all right, fine. So in this way, we added the data, and then I'm going to replace this with the email. Fine. So yeah, the things is ready for us. This is the load test script that we need to prepare. All right, this is the URL, headers, everything, and then we're done. If I just can do the K6 run again one more time, there is the request, the one request which is successful. Now we need to increase the users, okay, and then we need to hit this multiple times, right? So to do that, I'm going to use a makefile just to write that script. You can use the you, you can use the direct command from the terminal, but I'm going to have makefile so that it can be used later again and again. So to do this inside the makefile, okay, I will have one command called load. Fine. So in this case, I'll just say k6 run. Fine. And then there are the configuration for it. So if you see how to increase the users, how to increase the load and something like that. Okay. So the stages, what is the stages? There should be some called stages. So we are trying to run in multiple stages. Okay. So stage k6 stage. So, mm, where is the k6 stage, or let's say the running k6? All right. So this is what the virtual users is 10, okay, and then it will run for 30 seconds with the virtual load test of 10, something like that. So there is the K6 stage as well. So if you check for K6 stages, okay, in the options, we have the stages. We should have the stages. So I'm more interested to run this in a different stages, something like this. Okay, so in the first beginning, it will have some sort of users, and it will revamp the users, and then we'll tear down the user, something like that. So uh, let me have that configurations in my K6 run, which is the this one. So K6 run, and this is the, let's say, VUS 0. That means uh, there is no limit of the users. Okay, and the stage first is I'll run for, let's say, 5 seconds with the initial users 20, and then the stage 2 is I want to revamp the, let's say, increase the size of the load in my system. So I'll run for 20 seconds. Okay. Again, it will increase by 20, and then it will try to hit as many as requests that is possible to send at that time. It depends upon how well the system responds back. Okay. So, and then last for the 5 seconds, and then I'll turn it back to the 0, or let's say I'll revamp back to the 0. And then we have the K6 inside the K6. Sorry, okay. So inside the K6, we can have this as tab, 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 tab. And then here, I want to run the K6 of user post, right? So user post.js, and that's it. That's it. We don't have anything else to do here. Okay, we are just running this script and this that. So if you check back the since we have configured the stage, and there are so many configurations in the K6, the way we want to run your K6 test, and let's run the make command. And this is our first command, so we can do that. So if you see, it started sending lots of requests to the server, okay, and then it will show the result for us. How many successful requests were there, how many failure requests, something like that. What is the RPS of successful request for 30 seconds and see what RPS we get on this. Okay. So it seems like we have almost 30,000 requests. We send almost 30,000 requests, okay, and then the responses is almost, let's say, iteration is 1,018 per second. So our application is serving almost 1,000 requests per second. Okay, and then from here you'll see the more stat, like how much the time it took to send the request and receive the request, what are the total timing, something like that. So if you run again, maybe this stat will change a little bit, uh, because if you run the application for first time, the things will initialize for the first request. Okay, there are some sort of lazy loading inside. So normally the results would be your first run and the second run, something like that. My machine is i5, and then yeah, I think I have 16 GB RAM, something like that. So it will depend upon your hardware specification as well. So yeah, whenever we have the results somewhere in our system, the date we execute it is important to have this hardware specification as well. So now the let's say, yeah, the result, successful result is something like this, almost like 70,000 requests has been sent, and then something like this. Okay. So the request or the response per second was almost 2,300. So basically, we are not doing that much of thing now. If you want to check back the database for the entries that it has created, okay. So this is the database URL that I have updated. So let's go back to the S2 console and then see. Connect. And basically, we're doing the insert into the four different tables. So user entity, if you want to check the user entity, there are lots of data that has been inserted, and then also in the account, just here data as well. Okay. So basically, now we have done this load test for our first API. All right, and this is the stat that we're getting. Pretty cool, right? So this way, you'll have one benchmark. Let's say I'll just copy this to the new file called benchmark.md. Okay, and then I'll just say that this was what? This was something like this. For example, let's say my i5, and then mm, the 16 GB RAM, which is my hardware specification, and the database was S2, something like this, right? So uh, when we did it, I'm not providing any JPM option to my Java, I think. So it should be able to take the memory as much as possible from the system, I think. So the result was something like this. So let's copy the results and place somewhere here. Copy and paste. Okay, so fine, fine. If you see here, this is our first run, iteration one, and then this is the result. So we can keep these things as a benchmark, okay? And then whenever we add new features, we can compare with this data and see uh, if this is decreasing, the performance is decreasing or not. So if you like to see the one more interesting thing that we can do here is like we'll close this run, okay? And then we have this stat in our benchmark.md. The K60 is pretty straightforward. We can take this as part of the environment variable as well. For now, this is fine since we are going to run this in a local. So there is a jProfiler plugin in the IntelliJ, but you need to download the jProfiler actual, let's say, the software, and then use that. All right, so I'm going to run this application using the jProfiler. So I'm going to do the instrumentation, okay, and uh, it started loading my JPM out of it. So the second thing we can do here is like in the CPU views, we can record the CPU views, okay, and the database we can also start recording the data. So this will record the all the operation between the database and all the operation of the CPU. So mainly we are concerned about the two things. So let's run the K6 again test and see uh, what are the things that we are doing inside the application, right? So again, do the make and run the things. All right, and it started sending the data, which is pretty fine. And then if you see here, the the things we will be interested in would be in the very basic with the hotspots time that is taken by the if you see this create method is taking microsecond to invoke the 50,000 requests. Okay, I think this is pretty understandable because this guy is trying to create the entry into the database, so and also in a microsecond. So I think this is fine. We don't have that much of any lagging. Okay, everything is in microsecond. And then if you go back to the database as well and see the hotspot, we're trying to insert into user entity, user account, the account history, revenue info, and then this is the number of this is the timing that is taking. So basically, as of now, this is pretty much fine. Everything is in microsecond for this all of these events. Even there is a 50,000, 15,000 events, okay, and then the result is this. If you want to do one more time and see how the first iteration and the second iteration takes, okay. So you see, like there are lots of requests that are coming. Okay, this guy is processing. We don't have that much of thing. I think, yeah, these are services create this and that, this and that. So in our current operation, we are verifying the we are doing some validations using the JavaX validation and then inserting that data into our database. So we are not doing anything much. So these are the queries there. Now, yeah, it's much better, right? The second run is almost inserted the 50,000 or something like that data in our database within 30 seconds. So this way we make sure that how we are handling things inside our application, okay? And then, for example, let's say we want to add one features when the payment is being transferred. Someone says, you guys, you have to maintain the daily balance or something like that. Now you thought of one way of doing is like, okay, I'm going to create one table and then update the daily balance whenever the payment is processed. Okay. Let's say this is one way we are trying to do. Now, let's say all of your requests, even these 50,000 of requests are depending upon one entry that you are trying to modify while processing one request. So if you lock the database record and then try to modify the each entry for one operation, then all this performance will degrade, right? So it becomes the sequential just because of one implementation. In that time, you'll see, okay, I'm doing something wrong. I need to change the way of this implementation and then make that thing differently because I cannot do the way I was thinking. I cannot just make one entry into database for all of these operation and then try to update that entry as new transaction goes with locking that record, right? So we have to think about some other approach as well. So this way, like it helps on two things. It helps, as I said, it helps to have your confidence about the system and also the way you design your system and then make sure about the things. Thank you, guys. I think this is it about the K6 test and the jProfiling for today. Okay, you can try this out and see doing the different kinds of things in your applications, and then we'll also encounter later about there will be some issues or some of the operation will take time, and then how we try to keep this number as good as possible. Okay, so this is will be one of the interesting thing in our video series. Thank you for watching. I'm going to push this thing in the branch 8, I think. So this is the branch 8. So I'm going to push it in the branch 8. You can check out the things from there. And I'll see you in the next video in a different topic. Okay. Thank you.